Hi, besties. Guess what? We have a lunar eclipse coming right up, and I have prepared a very exciting uh, slideshow for us. And I guess it looks like I didn't even finish it, but too bad, because I'm on a time crunch and we got to talk about this. It is very important. This is how to use the September 17th, 2024 lunar eclipse to heal your life. And ready, set, go, because this is big stuff. So we have this lunar eclipse coming up on September 17th, and this is really important because it is the first eclipse since the solar eclipse on April the 8th of 2024, which hopefully you remember that we had this big solar eclipse going through here, and I made a bunch of videos about it. We talked about the Nineveh connection, the Salem connection. We talked about the sign of Jonah. We talked about a whole bunch of different stuff that all came together with this big eclipse. And I made a video about my predictions, and now we're up to the next stage. Now we have an eclipse cycle every 6 months or so, and that happens every single year. So you've seen tons and tons of solar eclipses, but you probably haven't seen them with your own eyes. That's what was special about this, is that you could see it with your own eyes. Rather, these eclipses are happening all over the world, usually over the ocean, because the ocean is most of the world, you know. And this this time was different in April. So if we look back at my videos from April, I was expecting a very big unexpected change. And we have obviously some big updates now on what that looked like. Remember that every solar eclipse is a solar eclipse because the moon is coming between the earth and the sun. The sun is the masculine energy and the moon is the feminine energy. And since that eclipse, we had that eclipse in April, and then in what, July or late June, we had the shocking surprise that Biden has like dementia slash cognitive decline slash advanced Parkinson's disease. Um, and then everybody realized it, even though most of us have been aware of that since like 2019, but some of us were not aware, and they were like totally shocked to discover that he has severe cognitive issues. And then Kamala Harris stepped forward, the moon coming in between the earth and the sun. So that was a very, very interesting manifestation of this eclipse energy. And I talked with astrologer Lila Sage in an earlier video about zodiacal releasing. It's about Kamala Harris and zodiacal releasing, which is an astrological technique that you can use to find the peak periods in somebody's life, the times when things are going to get really, really extra intense for them. And she had a Jupiter situation happening at the same moment as the eclipse, which is really, really something. And Jupiter just expands everything. And so Lila was saying she had been predicting that Biden would step down and Kamala would step forward, since she looked at Kamala's chart in the context of that eclipse. And so here we are. And of course, Kamala is now the candidate for the Democratic Party for this cycle. Now, the interesting thing about the solar eclipse is that it happened in Aries, and Aries is the sign that governs injuries and heads. Okay, like the head of your body, both literal heads and also heads of state. And our head of state was quote unquote beheaded by the debate situation. The head of state got removed and he's like in the basement right now. And he has retreated out of the public eye even further. The other contender for president received a near fatal head wound. And so this is a really interesting manifestation of how this eclipse energy is now playing out on the global stage, and also on a personal stage for like two very real persons, right? Um, Another thing that I didn't mention in this slideshow is that the moment that this picture was taken, uh, oh man, I didn't look it up ahead of time, but the star Algol, which is called the Demon Star, it's the head of Medusa in the constellation of Perseus. That star was like heavily triggering at that moment. And so when you see a head wound, when Algol is happening, Algol, the star, is like activating different placements in the chart. And we had this big eclipse earlier. Very, very interesting stuff. So this next lunar eclipse on September 17th opens up an eclipse portal between September 17th and October 2nd. And I know that sounds hokey pokey, but bear with me. This is an issue of barometric pressure, it's atmospheric pressure, and it's gravitational pull on the water in our bodies, okay? During these 2-week periods between eclipses, the gravitational situation is just different. It's just different than it is normally. And I'm talking about the gravitational pull on the water of the Earth, including the water inside of our bodies, how the moon is interacting with the tides of the oceans and the tides of our bodies is different during this time. And it does not just affect the oceans, it also affects barometric pressure, atmospheric pressure. And when, I mean, hopefully you've noticed by now that your body acts differently under different barometric pressures. When my little kids were 2 and 0, I realized maybe this is like the 5th time that I was like, this is the worst day of my life. And then like it was another worst day of my life. Every single time it was super, super cloudy, but it hadn't rained yet. And I finally realized like, oh my gosh, when the barometric pressure does this certain thing, my kids become psychos. And I'm like, and I'm a psycho too. Like, oh my gosh, I'm really affected by barometric pressure. I do believe all of us are significantly affected by barometric pressure, but we just don't realize it because it's not something that most people are paying attention to. But when you have this eclipse portal period between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, remember that you can never have just one eclipse. You're always going to have them in sets of 2 or possibly 3, and they're all going to be 2 weeks apart. And so this time we have a lunar eclipse and then a solar eclipse, and then kind of a little fake, almost lunar eclipse 2 weeks after that. So we've got a really interesting period. And of course, it's like election season, you know. So this is very interesting, but everybody's bodies are going to be affected by this barometric pressure situation, the gravitational pull situation, and we're just going to feel a little different. It's not going to be comfortable. And when people are uncomfortable, they make different decisions. Okay, this is a time of movement. This is a time where things show up typically out of the blue. It can be chaotic, it can be surprising. A lot of times, the things that happen during this eclipse period invite us to make decisions that can be really impactful. And sometimes there are decisions that you can't take back. This also opens up the human energy field for basically completely unfettered spiritual activity, both for good and for evil. Like it just heightens your spiritual connectivity. And so if you are super connected to good, then you're going to get a lot of spiritual downloads for good. And if you do not have such good boundaries and, negative types of spiritual energies are able to interact with you, then you may experience some of that as well. We can expect some reversals of fate and fortune during this 2-week period. And they'll come in like pretty surprising ways. So this is a chart of the eclipse that we're dealing with. And I run it from Washington, D.C. because that is really the situation that I'm really interested in, coming from a geopolitical standpoint. Now, this exact eclipse is happening on the Virgo Pisces axis, even though the nodal path is in Libra to Aries, and our matching solar eclipse is going to be on that axis. But lucky ducky us, we are dealing with a Virgo Pisces eclipse this like just in a few days, and this is exciting because we are leading up to the transition to the Virgo Pisces nodal path switch. So these little horseshoes are going to keep going, and they're going to enter Virgo and Pisces kind of soon. I mean, it's going to take months, but this is a key eclipse that's linked to that future transit. Okay. Virgo and Pisces deal with health and spirituality. So, of course, like the first thing you think when you see an eclipse like this after the pandemic, I'm like, okay, like, please, no more of that, please. But we'll have to see how that plays out. In a lunar eclipse, the moon is coming between the Earth and the sun. And so, what we can expect in some areas of our lives could be issues of loss and confusion, which would go with Pisces, coming between us and our sense of logic and reason in Virgo. So one thing about this upcoming eclipse is that things are primed for us to I mean, it can go good or bad. Pisces deals with our spiritual connection, and it deals with that fine line between illusion and delusion. Um, are you truly seeing what is not there, or are you completely insane, you know? Um, and then Virgo deals with logic and reason. I can see how, depending on the person and the situation, these next couple of weeks as we deal with this eclipse portal, things are going to show up that probably are going to lead to the dissolving of some boundaries, uh, feelings of confusion, feelings of loss. And when we let those big feelings get in between us and our reasoning, sometimes that can cause some problems. And so we've got to go into this remembering that no matter how much we feel, we also need to use our logic brains at least a little bit to evaluate it. This is kind of funny because I was going to post on Facebook today, and so maybe I'll post about it soon, but I'm just interested to know how often people evaluate their own thoughts. This is, I didn't think it was related to this, or like I didn't make the connection until just now, but it's totally related. Um, I feel like I have been evaluating my thoughts since I was like a preteen, and I just remember thinking one day like, wow, my thoughts are like pretty dumb. I should not believe these. And so I have I don't know, I have rules about my thoughts that I'm allowed to take seriously and not, and I like evaluate my own thinking, but I don't know how normal that is. This axis is going to really let us, I mean, it's going to give us a run for our money if we're not evaluating our thoughts, though. So I'm going to strongly suggest, if you're not the sort of person that thinks about your own thoughts, this is a good time to start thinking about them. Like, do a little audit of how you think and what you're thinking about and how you're thinking about it, and say, are these the thoughts of a successful person? Are these the thoughts of a smart person? Like, that's how I do it. I'm like, I don't know. When I start thinking unhealthy thoughts, I'm like, these sound like the thoughts of a dumb person. I should not think like this, you know. I'm like, these are not successful person thoughts. Delete. And when I find a belief that is not helpful, I just say delete and replace it with something better. And I think it helps. Okay. Um, this is another really key thing we got to talk about, is that Mars is squaring the nodes right here. And that is going to be really interesting. This indicates that we're going to see an event outside of personal or national control that may arise to force us to take action in the areas relating to home and family and comfort, and particularly self-defense. Okay, Mars in Cancer. Cancer is the crab, and it's got this hard exterior protecting this soft, squishy interior. Um, Mars in Cancer is going to be driven to protect the soft, squishy interior and, you know, home, family, comfort. The stuff coming up here may prompt you to fight with your family or for your family. And so you're going to have to choose which it is, you know? And the decisions that you make about how you're going to handle these different situations may have serious long-term impacts. So we're going to have to be really cautious about how we handle it. When the big family drama shows up, take your deep breaths, excuse yourself, give yourself some time. You have plenty of time, and be sure that you're interacting in a way that you're proud of, you know. Mars in Cancer there is going to possibly invite us to make some life-altering decisions around the themes of home, family, intuition, and self-protection. How are we going to protect the soft, squishy core? And Cancer also governs our gut instincts, okay? That feeling in your physical body of when you should do something or when you shouldn't do something, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. So looking at this chart with this Virgo Pisces situation, this Mars in Cancer, I'm thinking, okay, I'm guessing that most of us are going to have some kind of situation that's going to force us into a state of gut instinct, and we're going to have an opportunity to take action based on our gut feelings. And we're probably going to do that unless we let that Virgo energy kind of like help us think through it. But it's going to be tougher than usual because that Pisces moon is going to be cutting off that Virgo sun. So this does not mean that your eclipse portal has to be crazy personally. I'm sure many of us are going to have very chill, very boring eclipse portals, and that is great. And congratulations if that is you. But what we need to remember is that our experiences with eclipse portals are going to reflect what we need to learn, like the lessons that we need to learn and what we have learned and what we haven't learned. If you have a big, huge lesson to learn about self-protection, or about instincts, or about your intuition or your family, that may come up in a really big way. And if you've already mastered that lesson, it may not come up for you. Like you may have smooth sailing, you know? So it just depends person to person and, you know, where we are on our life journeys. On a national level, these are my thoughts about that. I think we're going to see some extra assessment of threats, particularly to physical health because of Mars squaring the nodes and the Virgo Pisces eclipse axis. I'm thinking of monkeypox. I'm thinking of it's going to be flu season. I'm thinking of they just approved the 10th COVID booster shot. Woohoo. Um, we may be invited to participate in a new martial action of some kind. I mean, there's plenty of conflicts all over the world, and so how will we participate in that? Perhaps we will be reevaluating that between now and October 16th, which is when that third, you know, the third eclipse in this cycle is happening. It's not really an eclipse, but it's so close. With the sun obscured by the moon, feelings may win over logic, and that may be the best move. And also, it might not be the best move, you know? So we're just going to have to see how things play out in a time when, I don't know, when decisions need to be made and you were operating from our gut feelings. Now, I am, generally speaking, a really big believer in um, trusting your gut feelings, but sometimes your gut is messed up, you know, like we all know that, especially if your literal gut has problems, like you know for real that sometimes guts are not right. Our gut instincts and our gut level decisions, they are very informed by our trauma, and so the more we can clear out that trauma, the better quality of gut level decisions that we're going to be able to make. So that is just going to be something to keep in mind as we head into this. Yes, trust your gut feelings, but also be sure to check on when your gut feelings are actually trauma based. Again, that's why I do all the work that I do at Intuitive Healing with Allie Duzett on Facebook, allieduzettclasses.com. I have some sessions that I'm going to recommend in preparation, but let's get back to it. Okay. Oh, go back. Okay. What is going to move fast during this eclipse? We have a grand trine Earth between Uranus and Taurus. Ah, where are you, buddy? Oh my goodness, here we go. Pluto in Capricorn and the Sun in Virgo. And so this is going to be a pretty fast energy. Now, these two guys are trining each other for like a while. Because they're both slow moving planets. Pluto's on a 244-year orbit. Uranus is on an 84-year orbit. So they're going to hang out together for a while. And those blue lines mean a fast flow. Things that go in on this side just shoot right over to that side and like shoot right over to that side, shoot right back over to that side. So we've actually got two grand trines, but I'm really counting this one because the other one is like a little bit loose for me, for my purposes at this time. Typically, a grand trine Earth in a natal chart is going to indicate stability and patience, but this is not really a natal chart. This is the chart of a blip in time that's associated with this lunar eclipse. And we have Uranus over here dealing with surprise authenticating events. I say it like that because these are shocking surprises that come up to invite you to step into your authenticity more greatly. And so Uranus is typically associated with things like volcanoes and earthquakes and just like shocking surprises that really let you see who you really are. Like, have you ever been in an emergency situation and you figure out like, oh, when push comes to shove, this is the kind of person I am. You know, that is Uranus. He's going to say, hey, push has come to shove. What kind of person are you? This Pluto is all about dissolve and evolve. So again, this flow is happening for everyone all over right now, that we're all being invited to lean into being the caterpillar in the cocoon. We're supposed to be dissolving into goo so that later we can become a butterfly, but becoming the butterfly is probably not going to happen just yet because we're not done dissolving and evolving. This is going to be trining the sun just for this little while, and give it a couple more days and the trine is over. I mean, we will still have a couple of days through the beginning of this eclipse portal where this trine is still active. But what does that mean for everybody is just a heightened situation where we are all extra called to evolve, extra called to be authentic to ourselves, even in the face of events that we did not expect. Okay, there's support in this chart for some situations to take place that dissolve and evolve formerly stable situations in a way that invites everyone to step into their most authentic self. On a personal level, I think we should be keeping an eye out for health stuff and job stuff, because Virgo Pisces deals with health, physical health, and mental health. Job stuff, we're dealing with Pluto in Capricorn, trining Uranus in Taurus, which also, I mean, Capricorn and Taurus both deal with like money and land and the economy and jobs. So we're just going to keep an eye out for the health stuff and the job stuff. What surprise events are going to show up for us on a macro level and on a micro level to help us get out of old situations that felt like they would never change? This alignment is going to help break down things that are not working and make way for new growth, which, has pros and cons. Remember that everything that happens in the next 6 weeks or so is happening for you and not to you. Many of us may have very chill and boring eclipse portals, which it will be fabulous. And if you have that, congratulations. And many of us will have ones that are tinged with upheaval. And we just have to remember this is a gift and not a curse. This is not to ruin your life. It is to bless you. We get to lean into the challenges that show up during this time and trust our creator to help us get through it. And as we do that, we're going to see huge blessings unfold that we didn't expect. Okay. We have huge opportunities coming up to rethink how you have lived your life and to see with greater clarity what is in greater alignment with you as you are right now and with you as you would like to be. Okay. This portal is opening up some big energies for us to make some huge changes if we want to. And many of us may not want to, but if there are some big things that you do want to change in your life, this is a key time to get clear about that. It's time to write that stuff down. It's time to really spend some time thinking about it. It's time to start taking some action towards it. Now, new perspectives. The great thing about lunar eclipses is that they sever that connection between the Earth and the sun. For a couple hours, maybe, your body has a whole new kind of gravitational pull exerted on it by the moon, and then you have that window between that moon situation and then the next eclipse situation. But during a lunar eclipse, during that exact eclipse moment, symbolically speaking or spiritually speaking, you're like able to fling out the stuff from you that didn't belong there, but that was kind of held in place by the sun and moon, by their relationship. It's like they have this little breakup for an hour or two, and the sun is like just not there. It's like not connected for just a couple of hours. And so it allows us to let go of the stuff that's been on our hearts and minds and in our bodies, and the unforgiveness and the guilt and the shame and like all the weird stuff we've been carrying from our lives. We go into this consciously and just say like, okay, as soon as this disruption happens in the energy field, like I want to say goodbye to that stuff. Let's vacuum it right out of my body. Every 6 months or so, because of these eclipse cycles, we get this huge chance to clear out things that are holding us back in this way. And this is just an incredibly powerful time for healing. I will mention that even if you didn't know, like you've never paid attention to eclipses before, it doesn't matter. You have been affected by these. You have felt them affecting you. You didn't know it. If you pulled up a list of all of the most important events of your life and lined it up with the eclipses every year, you would see some connections. I remember multiple events from my childhood and my adulthood, thinking like, wow, this is a notably insane day. What are the odds that this would happen during an eclipse? Well, actually, the odds are like really high. Eclipses bring in the weird and crazy, and it's okay. Now, we are building up to a solar eclipse that's going to be happening on October the 2nd. And this one really, really got me. I'll probably make another video about this, but this is the big drama that we are having ahead of us. We are having this eclipse taking place at 10 degrees of Libra, which doesn't sound that bad unless you know what 10 degrees of Libra is. And what it is the location of the fixed star Vendemiatrix. I probably said that wrong. Vendemiatrix. I don't know. The woman wine grower. This is a star known as the mischief star, and Vendemiatrix is actually the partner with Algol. So if you remember, Algol is over here at about 26 degrees of Uranus. And over here we have Vendemiatrix, and she's actually at 9 degrees and 56 minutes of Libra. So both 9 and 10 degrees are like really getting whacked by her in particular. And this is actually a sesquisquare, I believe. Did I say that right? Is it the other one? It's a 135 degrees away, which is, I think I covered that on another slide. But the important things to know about this location of the zodiac is that it's associated with impulsiveness, wantonness, bad decisions, going with your gut but getting it wrong because your gut was wrong, foolishness, scandalousness, poverty, and yes, leadership ability in bold, because I was like, oh boy, what a combo. Like, it's known for bad decisions and like doing it wrong and leading other people. And I just thought, oh man, let's think about this on a national scale. Let's think about this on a global scale. Of course, President Putin, I believe, is a Libra. I have read his chart on this channel before. I didn't think about this until this very moment. So go check out that video. Let's find out what's going on for him. I'll have to make a new video about it because he personally is going to be really impacted by this eclipse. And I mean, like, it's in his natal sign of Libra. If you have a Libra sun or moon or rising or a bunch of planets in Libra, it's going to be a doozy for you. And so I don't know. Uh, we'll have to see how this plays out. We'll have to keep an eye on it. Now, this placement, Vendemiatrix, is famously known for the loss of a partner. I mean, like a romantic partner. It is considered second only to Algol in terms of known evil, and yeah, they are sesquisquare to each other, which means that they are in a big tension, but over time they will flow. So that is really an interesting vibe, and I'm interested to see how that energy plays out whenever you have a sesquisquare in your chart. You know, it indicates this level of opposition where the one side needs one thing and the other side needs another thing, and things show up in your life to prevent you from really leaning into either thing, you know, without it coming at the expense of the other one. But eventually something will happen and there will be a flow there. Maybe not the way that you want, but it will be flowing. So I don't know, something to keep an eye on, considering these events of July 13th and April 8th. In an eclipse, in particular, I found a note about Vendemiatrix and eclipses, and I need to do some research because I need to find out when was the last time we had an eclipse at 10 degrees of Libra, and I truly don't know, and I'm gonna have to go figure it out. But since ancient times, an eclipse in Libra at 10 degrees, I mean, conjunct this star, was specifically known to portend the death of a head of state. This is a big warning that somebody in charge of a nation, somebody very important, may pass. This is a star associated with newsworthy death, assassination, execution, murder, serious disasters like crashes of some kind. So I'm like, huh, okay, interesting. Now, does that mean if you have placements there that you are going to experience a newsworthy death? Does it mean that that you are going to lose your partner or something like that? I do not believe so. I mean, maybe that might happen, but like, I think there would have to be a lot of different other things going on in a chart to make that thing happen. But from what I was reading, this is especially true in like, I guess you would call them bereavement charts. Like when you look up the moment of somebody's passing, I guess you should look at 10 degrees of Libra and see what's going on in there and how that point is interacting with, you know, the sun and moon of the survivors and stuff like that. Anyways, if you have stuff at 10 degrees of Libra, do not lose your mind. Your agency is always more important than the stars. There's this famous saying called astra inclinant, non sed obligant, which means the stars incline us to do different things, but they cannot force us to do anything. Okay, just because it's in the chart does not mean it has to happen. And also, sometimes we misinterpret wrong. And the most important thing is not to live in fear. When I was reading up about Vendomeatrix, one thing that I read is that sometimes that placement at 10 degrees of Libra can drive people to like worry all the time about the untimely loss of their loved ones. And that fixation just causes huge problems itself. And so, but we don't have to live like that. I mean, like, that's why I do all the work that I do, because we can break these old patterns and step into new ways of thinking and living. So we have the solar eclipse stellium up here. The sun, the moon, Black Moon Lilith, and Mercury are all here within like basically 1 degree of each other. 10, 10, 10, and 11, boom. This is going to be a huge reset in terms of our primary relationships. I mean, Libra governs marriage. It governs all your one-on-one friendships, one-on-one relationships. It governs our legal contracts. It governs our alliances, the documents that we sign. This is a big reset in terms of our relationships and what feels equal and balanced. We may need to communicate about boundaries and possibly in ways that are not extremely fun, but we may see that we need to renegotiate boundaries in a serious way. And when I wrote this down, I was thinking about this in terms of individuals, but you can see how on a national or a global stage, this need to renegotiate boundaries would be very, very literal and involve like actual land. And I don't know, that could be pretty interesting with this square down here to Mars. That is a big tension having to do with martial things. I mean, like, this is the god of war, Aries or Mars, So, and because of the Libra connection with the law, legal stuff may show up. We'll just have to see. We have squares here to Mars and squares to the part of fortune, both at 15 degrees. And actually, look at this. We have the part of fortune exact the ascendant at the moment of this eclipse. So that is a really interesting call for stability. You know, Capricorn is one of the most stable signs of the zodiac, and I don't know, that's the feeling that I get when I see that. I'm like, oh man, there's a bunch of tension between our call for stability and the need to renegotiate boundaries, the need to rediscover what is fair and what is not fair, resetting relationships between the sun and the moon. How much weight should I give my feelings? How much weight should I give my logic? And then, of course, this Mercury is going to deal with how are we communicating, and this Black Moon right in between means that we may not be super nice about how we're communicating. We're going to demand some respect. We're going to demand some autonomy, even if other people don't like it. So as you head into this season, you can know that the weather is that the gravitational pulls exerting on our bodies are going to inspire us to be a little bit more brash than usual, to say things perhaps a little bit more bluntly than usual. And this could hurt some feelings as we're heading into this season, and you can opt out of it. You get to choose what you're going to say whenever you want to say it. Like, you get to be the boss of choosing how you interact with other people. And so going into this, you get to know, okay, I'm going to be extra careful right now to be kind to other people and to express myself in a judicious way that is not going to hurt other people's feelings, Okay, with this big square, we can expect occasions to show up that are beyond our control. These are things that are not your fault. It's going to be like things that come out from somewhere else into our lives. And the invitation is to help us get serious about how we are taking care of our families, how we're taking care of ourselves and honoring our intuition, and how we are interacting with our work and the economy at large. So how do we use this time wisely? As we build up to this eclipse, we need to start thinking about what we want to let go of with our physical health and our mental health, and making a really good list of those kinds of things. We Well, actually, I'll just tell you. I went ahead and made an entire uh worksheet that you can do, and you can just print it out. It's like a printable, and it has some thought questions for you, and you just like print it out and write down the answers. And so I think what I'm gonna do, I haven't done it yet, but before I put up this video, I think I'm gonna create a little subset on my email list. So you'll just like sign in, and if you're already on my email list, you won't be added again, but you'll just get a little tag that will send you the worksheet so that you can get to work. I thought, man, I want you to have access to all these like thought questions. And I thought, oh my gosh, when it's on a YouTube video, even though I've done this the whole time, I just put them on YouTube, and I'm just like pause it and just think about it. I think it will be nice to have the opportunity to like write down your thoughts and have the questions already pre-printed out. So anyway, check the links below for that. And man, we have an interesting cycle coming up. So I'm still figuring out how exactly I want to be the most supportive to all of us as we go through this, but I have a lot more thoughts about what's going on that I can't share tonight. So, okay, thank you for being here. I hope this was helpful. Type in your questions below. Um, Man, do your worksheet, please. My intention is that it will bless your life and help you prepare in a serious way. So, okay, have a good night, guys. Like and subscribe if you didn't. Okay, bye.